Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to week 2 of your front-end course. And this week we have looked at CSS colors and we also looked at CSS text properties. So we're going to use all that we've learned to design this page. Now, on this page, I have created some text content that we're going to apply CSS properties for colors and text. Now, here, if you recall from the last lesson we had last week, we looked at the different headings we can have on HTML page. And as you can see here, I have a H1 heading for the heading Welcome to the School of Programming and Software Development. Now, I also have a second heading, which is the H2 for a lesser heading where we want to specify a subheading, which is Explore the World of Coding Excellence. So you can see how they display according to the level of the heading we used. Now, we also have a paragraph, and the paragraph basically is just an introduction of the school. So these contents, these text contents, we are going to apply the different CSS colors and text properties to make this page look more interesting. All right, so if there's any questions about what I have here that you do not understand, you can ask now before we proceed. All right, so I believe we can proceed. So we're going to apply styles to this text content, and we have looked in the class lesson that we have 3 different ways we can apply styles to.
Sorry, Mr. Edith.
Okay.
I can't see your screen. Did you share your screen? Or is it from my end? I'm not seeing it at all.
Okay, is it the same for everyone?
I can see your screen.
Okay. So who else can see the screen? Or you can raise your hand if you do not want to on your mic. Okay, just for uniformity, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'll share again. Hopefully it works this time. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see.
All right. Okay. So let's proceed. All right. Now, I explained previously, since you possibly didn't see much of the contents I was explaining. I said we have different headings on this page, which I have created for this exercise to illustrate how to apply styles to these text elements using the CSS colors and the CSS text properties that we have learned on the class lesson for this week. Now, I have a H1 heading, and you can see it's the main heading, which says Welcome to School of Programming and Software Development. And I have a H2, which is a subheading, and a H3, also a subheading. So according to the level of the heading, you see how it's displayed. Now, we also have a paragraph that gives us the introduction about the school. And then we also have other paragraphs and ending with a H2 element for a bold text that says enroll now and make waves in the tech world. So we want to apply all that we have learned in the class lesson to this page and to make it more interesting or look more of a web page. Now, I was mentioning that we have learned the 3 ways to apply styles to our HTML documents. Now, we looked at the inline style, where we include the style attributes in the start tag of the element. So this is a H1 element. We could as well do this on any other element. We could do it on the body element. We could do it on the H1 element itself. So here I can add the style attributes and then specify a style that I want to apply to this heading. So let's say we want to give this heading a color, and I'm going to specify here the CSS property, which is color. For text, this is going to be the property we use to apply colors for text. So I say color, and then after a colon, I'm going to specify the color I want to apply, and then let's give it a color of green, and I close with a semicolon. So always remember to close with a semicolon. And if I save this and refresh my page, we're going to see that the color has been applied to the heading. So this is the inline style, and then we also have the embedded style, which is in the head area of our documents. So you can see here in between the start and the end of the style elements is where I can as well apply this style to. And then I want to also let you know that if you are applying a style using the inline style, it takes importance over every other style that relates to this particular element. So let's say we want to use a H1 here as well. So this is how we apply style to the elements, by calling the element's name, which is H1, and in a pair of curly braces, we specify the property we want to apply to that element. So let's say I want to also, now here we do not have to say style. We do not have to call the attribute style because we already have it here as a tag, right? Now, I'm going to go straight to the property, which is color. And if I say color and say green, and I save this, okay, I'm going to use a different color so we can see the difference. So if I say yellow and save this, and when I refresh my page, the color does not change because the inline style, the browser takes more importance of the inline style over the embedded style, as well as the external style sheets. So if I want to create an external style sheet here, I could decide to have a style inside, and as well I could save the style documents in my CSS folder, which I can as well add styles here as well. So, but for this exercise, now I have other folders here. This is just the basic structure like we learned in the previous lesson of workspace. So this folder I have here is in this project folder called week 2. So I'm going to remove this so we can have better understanding. So this week 2 is my project folder, and inside I have a subfolder called CSS, which I can decide to save my CSS styles. This is the right practice. You save your CSS styles inside the CSS folder. That's the external style sheet. And then you also you can have images folder and other pages. So a website has several pages, and you can decide to have all the pages inside the pages folder. So this is the best structure for a web page. Now, I also have a folder called scripts, but we're not going to do anything about this yet until we get to JavaScript of this course. Now, we're going to focus on the embedded style sheet so we can have a full view of all the styles and how it applies to the elements. So this is just for the display purpose, but best practice is to have all your styles inside your CSS file. All right, so now you see the yellow color does not apply to the heading, but if I take out this inline style. And save, and I refresh my page, we see the yellow color displaying now because I have taken out the inline style. But this is not how we are going to design our page. So this is just a way for us to see how the different ways we can apply styles to our web page. So we're going to design this web page, and we are going to apply styles to each element we have here. So the first element we are going to style here, we're going to start from the body elements, and we are going to add a background color to the body. So I'm going to type the body element's name, which is body. Now, inside the curly brace is where I'm going to type the properties that I want to apply to this heading, the body elements. Now, the body element is the whole of the web page space, as you can see here. So it's called the body, and whatever style I apply is going to affect everything on this page. But you want to be careful when you apply styles to your body elements so it doesn't conflict or affect other elements you do not wish to have those same styles on. All right, so what we're going to do here is we want a background color for the whole page, and to apply a background color, we use the background color property called background color. So I'm just going to make use of the suggested prompts I have for my IDE for faster typing. And then I want to specify the color. So if I use let's say I want to use a black color, and I'm going to save this so we see that it doesn't look nice. So you can see that the color just covers everything because the text in here are black as well. So we don't want that to happen to our page. So we're going to specify the color of the text. So to apply color to our text, we say color as the property, and then specify the text color we want. So I'm going to use a hexadecimal color, a hexadecimal value for this, and it will be white. So white is just the 6 characters, and I'm going to close this. So you can always research the different colors. There are several colors that we can use. Now, you don't have to memorize all of them because there are so much. So you can just always have reference sheets, Google them, decide what color you want, search it on Google or other libraries that could provide color palettes for you, and then you can choose from them. So this is going to be a white text. I'm going to save this and refresh the page so we see how it applies. Now you can see that the text on the page now is appearing as white, and it's more readable compared to the dark text we had. So this is not the final way we can make this look better. Let's try to use a different color type here. So we're going to use the RGB color, but before we use the RGB color, I'm just going to explain how the RGB color works. So I'm going to take out the black, and I'll use the RGBA, and in the pair of bracket, we are going to specify the values. Now, how does the RGBA values work? The meaning of RGBA is red, green, blue, and A for alpha. Now the alpha just gives us the opacity or transparency of the color. So here the values for RGBA usually are from 0 to 255. So if we say 255, this simply means that we are using the full red color. Now, whatever value we specify between 0 to 25 on this first part gives us a different shades of red. So if we say 255, this just says that we want the red color. And then if we say 0, this is what we're specifying. This means we're specifying the 0 shade for green, and then the next for blue. So let's say I use 0 as well, and always separate them with a comma. That means we've specified this value for blue, and then for the transparency we have the value ranging from 0 to 1. So we can specify between 0 to 1, and here we can say we want 0.5. So this is more of a semi-transparent transparency for this color. So if I save this, then we can have a lighter shade of red. So we didn't give any specific value. We gave 0, so which means we don't want the blue and the green to display. We just want the red. But now we have specified the shade, the transparency of the red, and it gives us a very light transparency of a red color. So you can play around this, or research or search for a specific color or shade of color. You can get so many color output from these values. But for this exercise, we're going to be using a darker shade of we're going to use a light shade of dark color. So I'm going to specify here I don't want red, and I don't want green, and I don't want blue. So this is just going to give us a dark color. So I'll save this. But I want the transparency to be 0.9. So the specified black color we had before. So if we keep on adjusting this value, we're going to be seeing different shades of transparency of this dark color. So once you get the desired or satisfied color shades, then you can work with that. All right, so I'm just going to use 0.9, and I'll save this. So this is going to be for our background color, and we have set the text color to white. So we're going to be making use of different colors on this page, and I just want us to understand how the color works. All right, next we want to style the heading tag, which is the H1 element that says welcome to School of Programming and Software Development. So I'm going to type H1 here, and in my curly brace I'm going to add my styles. Now I want the text of this, the font text, I want this size to be bigger. So I'm going to use the font size property called font size, and I'm going to use 60px, so that several units that you can use on your HTML or CSS, we can use px, we can use em, we can use percentage, but I usually use the px because it's easy for me to calculate. So I'm going to use 60px, and I'll save this, and we'll see the difference in the size. So you see the size is bigger, so this looks more catchy for a web page. And then we can include a font family. Now, how the font family works, just like your Word documents, we have several fonts that we can apply to our documents. So it's just as same as this HTML documents. We can add the fonts we desire. So you can see from the suggestions here that there are different fonts, and we can decide which font we want to use. Now, even if I don't want to use any of these fonts, just like the fonts we always have on our Word documents, since that's where we mostly use different fonts, we can use fonts like Arial, which is not among the listed fonts. Now, if your browser does not support a specific, particular font, just as we are writing this code, we don't know what type of browser or which browser the user would open the website. So we can give a different options to the browser here. So let's say, for example, my browser does not support Arial, so I could as well add a second option. So if I want to add a second option, I'm just going to include the options and add it to it, separated by a comma. So if the browser does not support Arial, then it would check for the second option, and if it supports monospace, then it's going to use monospace. But if the browser does not support monospace, then you can include as much fonts you would like the text to display. So this is pertaining to your design. So you don't just choose any font, you want specific fonts. The defaults usually for most browsers are sans serif, so you could just include it. And let's say if the browser doesn't support Arial, doesn't support monospace, then it's going to fall back to sans serif. But if it does support Arial, then Arial will be the first option that it goes with, and does not need to bother about the other fonts we have here. So this is just giving the browser several options for it to choose. So I'm just going to stick with Arial, and hopefully my browser supports Arial. Okay, I'm going to take this out and see again if it doesn't. Okay, so it makes no difference. So I'm going to look for a different font. So this is why we give it different options. So let's use sans serif. So this probably might not change. Okay, all right. So you see the browser supports sans serif. So we're just going to stick to sans serif. All right, now next we want to add a color to this heading, and we're going to use a hexadecimal color. And to add the color to the text, not the background, the text itself, we use the color property and we specify the color. So the hexadecimal color is just using the hash sign and a 6-value character that we're going to use to specify the color type. So I'm going to use this. Now, prior to this exercise, I have selected specific colors that I want to use. So I'm not using random colors, and I don't have them saved anywhere in my head. So these are colors I have researched and saved for this exercise purpose. So this will be FF00FF. I'm going to save this, and we have a purple color for our heading. Then we can add a text shadow to the heading. So the text shadows are applied to text content, any text content we have, or only text content on the web page. So we also have shadows for things like images and containers, and for that we use box shadow for that. So there are different creative ways we can apply shadows, but the property we use for text is called the text shadow. So I'm going to type the text shadow here. And then how does the text shadow works? We specify for the values that, let's say we want the shadow to display outside the text in a particular axis. So we call them offsets. So we have X offsets or X axis and the Y offsets. So depending on the value we specify, it's going to decide where the shadow is going to display from. So here I want to, and then the syntax goes like this. So I'm just going to type the syntax first. So 0, 0. Now this, I'm not trying to bring out the shadow from any part. I just want it to display behind the text itself. So my X and Y offset remains 0, and then 10px for the blur, and then the color. So I want the shadow to have a white effect. So I'm going to use FFF for the color. So the 10px just decides the spread, the blur spread, and then the first two values decide the axis you want the shadow to display from. So I'm going to save this, and let's look at how this displays. So you see, the white shadow just displays behind the text because I haven't set it to display from any of the. So let's say I use something like 5 here. We save this, and you see that it doesn't give us exactly what we want. So there are different ways. So maybe 5 is too much. So let's say 2. Still not visible. All right, so I'm just going to leave this at 0, and let the shadow just display behind the text. So you can always have your text shadow reference sheets online where you can check to see which one works best for you. Now I want to add more shadows to this text so we can have like a neon effect. So if you want to add more shadows, all you have to do is separate the shadows with a comma and include shadow effects you want. So I want to include 0 as the offset, another 0 for my Y offset, and then this time I want the spread to be 20px, so it's going to give us a bigger spread effect, and I still want the color to be white. So I'm going to use the FF hexadecimal color. Now I also want another spread. So this goes as much as you would like to design your shadows. So I want another spread, and this is just going to increase the spread of the shadow. And this time I want 30px, and I also want color to remain white. I'm going to save this, and let's see the magic we have created. So now we have a very nice neon effect. So this is just my own creativity. You can decide how to style your text however you you want. So knowing the basic is the most important part, but how you style it is up to you. All right, now let's look at how to position this text at the center of this page. Now, to position text, we use the text align properties, and the text align is just the text word text align. Now, you see the different options we have here. We have center, we have left, we have justify. So we're going to make use of these options. But the first one we want to look at here for this heading, let's use center. I'm going to save this, and you see that the heading is displayed at the middle of the page. So this takes the text to the center, just as we specify in the heading. So I think this is enough for the heading. Let's look at other elements that we can style on this page. Now we have next here the H2 elements, and I'm going to type the H2 here. And in a pair of curly braces, I'm going to specify the properties for the H2. Scroll down so we can see. All right, now, what can we do to the H2? We can as well increase the font size, just like we did for the H1, but this time something less, since we want it to be a subheading. So I'm going to save this. I'm using 36px, and the size now is a bit bigger. And then we can as well change the font family, just as we have done for the H1. And this time, I'm going to use Times New Roman. And spelled Times with a capital letter, New Roman. Then next, we want the color to be something different. So let's change the color. Unlike the heading, the text color can use something different. And I'm going to use the hexadecimal color. This gives us more options than the specified colors. So I'm going to save this. Let's see what we've done so far. Now we have more darker shades of purple, or let's change the color. Let's use something else. So like I said, it's quite difficult having them memorized in your head. So you could always save them and reuse them whenever you need to. So I think this color works best. So we have a good contrast between the colors to know the heading from the subheading. All right, so our page is looking good. Next, we can add the text decoration property to make this subheading underlined. So we use the text decoration, and we can choose the underline from the value. So this, you can decide for your page whatever value you want, but we're using underline for this, and it gives us a good heading format. All right, let's look at other text properties. We can as well change the color of this text, the underline. So what we use is the text decoration color. So say text decoration color. Just going to use from the suggestions, go faster option. And we can choose the color. Let's say we want something like the purple. And save this. Okay, so this gives us red. All right, so it's the this is one way we can use to style more add more styles to our text decoration properties. And we can as well add a style to the line to make it double, and that we can use the text decoration style. So like the class lesson, we used a short code for this, but I'm just typing out everything so we can see how they work before we use the short version of it. So the style here, we can choose, let's use double. I'm going to save this. Now we have the line doubled. So this gives us something different. And we can decide to add the text to the right side of the page. Currently, the text is on the left side. So let's take the text to the right side. So we see how the text align left displays. Sorry, the right side. Save this, and we have explored the world of coding excellence displaying on the right. Now, let's look at other elements. Because of time, we're going to try and style as much elements as possible as we can. Now, next we want to style the H3. Now, the H3 here is the transforming streams into lines of code, which is the next line of text we have there. So we can as well do the same what we've done so far for the H3. So I'm just going to copy this. But this time I want to change the values. Here I'm going to use 24px, and for the text property, the font property, let's use Courier. And for the color, now let's change the font style for this text. We can use the font style to change this text to italic. Let's use italic. And we're going to align this text to the center. Or no, let's use something else here. Sorry. So text align. Let's use justify. So what justify does is it spreads the text to contain the available space on the page. So I'm going to save this so we see it's quite different from the align right or left. So you see the text tries to cover as much space as possible as it can on the page. So this is not trying to align it to the left nor align it to the right, like we have here for center and right. So this just tries to spread the text so it looks more appealing. All right. Now there's a property called border property. This is we're going to look this more on next week or the upper week, I think. But yeah, I'm just going to use the property here just to add a little more style to this text. But we're going to look deeper into about borders on our next lessons. All right, so the property is called border, and you can decide which side of the area that you want, the border bottom or the border top. So if you want a border to display at bottom, top, left, right, so there are different properties for the border. But for this, I want to have a border bottom. So I'll select border bottom, and I'm going to use the shorthand code for it. So this 2px means that I want the size of the border to have a 2px width. So it's going to have a thickness of 2px, and I want the border to be solid. There are different values for this, and then I would specify the color for this border. And save. So this just gives us a line other than the underline. So the underline sticks with the text, but this just draws a complete line for the whole of the text elements. That's the H3 elements. So we can decide the width as well, but this is just what we're going to do. So there are other ways we can add lines to our page. So we're going to look at another way. So what elements do we have next? We have the P elements. So there's something you need to know on when designing your web page or when applying styles to your elements. Now, if I apply a style to as I have applied the style to the H3 elements, if I have another element, just like we have here, the H2 elements, we have another H2 element on this page. So you see the style applies to both of the elements. Now there are ways we can use to specify which elements specifically we want to apply a style to. Now, by just calling the element's name, this means that for every H2 element, we're going to have these properties applied to them. But there are ways we can decide to say, okay, I don't want this style to affect all the H3 or the P elements. So that's what we're going to do here. Now, to make sure that we have a specific element that we want to target, we give it an attribute called class or ID. So the ID is just the text ID, and with the assignment symbol, we say in a pair of quotes the name of the ID. So we could as well use an ID or a class. We're also going to look more into these attributes. We're going to make use of them a lot in our programming journey. So here I'm going to use the class attributes, and I'm going to specify that this paragraph will be our first paragraph. So I'm just going to type the text first and save. So this would make sure that whatever I apply to, so I'm going to type the syntax here, and here I want to apply this property. I want to apply a style to the paragraph, but the paragraph that is the first paragraph. Now to call a class, we use the full stop and then type the name of the class. So if I say first, this means that I want to apply a style to this paragraph. So it's going to look for where the class is located. So you can make use of this class on other elements, and it's still going to affect any of the elements you include this class called first. But we just want this first paragraph to be unique. So I'm going to use first as the class name. So I'm going to start applying styles to it. Now you could be more specific. You could add the elements to it, just like this, saying P, I want the paragraph, but I want the paragraph that has the class called first, right? Now, inside the pair of curly brace, I'm going to apply my styles. So I want something unique for this first paragraph, which is the introduction we have here. So first, we're going to start with just like we have so far, we're going to include the font size, the font family, the color. So I'm just going to copy this and modify them inside this block. So now I want the text for this first paragraph to be 18. And then I want a different font family. Hopefully I get Arial. The color, I'm going to change the color. So I'll save this first and we see how it's displayed. So you see the text is bigger. So this is the first paragraph from here to here. This is the first paragraph. We have a lighter shade of a color. I think this is between green and blue. So that's why we use the hexadecimal colors, because it gives us more options. Now I want to add more styles to this first paragraph. Now, as it is a paragraph, it's proper we use an indentation. So we use the indentation property called text indents. So I had to try and reference that. So many properties to remember. All right, so we use the text indent, and now we can specify the value for this text indent. So here I want it to be 20px. So I want a gap of 20px before the text starts. So I'm going to save this so we see how it's displayed. So now you see the space. This is what the 20px gets. So if we increase the value, let's say we want 30px, so does the space. All right, but we're going to use 20px. So let's add more styles to the paragraph. We can add word spacing and align the text to left. So let's do that. So to increase the spaces between the text, we use the property called word spacing, and it's just typed as word spacing. And then we decide the value for the spaces. So I want my spaces to have 5px gap. Going to refresh, so we see the gap. Not much, but just enough to spread the words so we can see them more clearly. Now let's align this text using the text align. And this time, let's just align it to the left. We haven't used left. So I'm going to save this, but this might not make any difference because by default, all the text on the web page are usually aligned to the left. Now, all text or all elements, everything we add to the web page usually starts from, most of the elements by default start from the left. All right. So this is just exploring the different text property. Now, we can add more styles, but let's just stop here because we don't have much time left. So let's do the same for the second paragraph. Because we don't want this style to affect other paragraph, we're going to use another class. And this, I could just say, let's say this is second. We'll save this. And I'll just copy this because we're going to have something similar, but with a little changes. This time I'll change this to second, since the name of the class is called second. Now the second, we can have the font to remain 18px. Okay, let's try something else for this. So we'll have a different font. Let's use Helvetica. So these are common fonts that we have on our Word documents. If those are the ones we are familiar with, you could always choose them. If it works for your browser, then you stick with it. But if it doesn't, then you could give more options for the browser to choose from by adding more fonts separated by a comma. Right. Now we want to have a different color for the second paragraph. Now let's do something different here. Let's make the font weight bold. So I'm just going to take out these properties so we can have something different here. So we want the font weight of this text to be bold. So there are different values. You could choose bolder, lighter, normal, but I want to use bold. I'll take this and save this. Let's see the difference. So now we have the yellow color, and we also have the font weight bolder than the other paragraph, and also the size of 18px, just like that's the other one. So we'll decide where we want to align the text at the end. So let's add more styles to this paragraph. Now, there are other properties we can use to change the case of the text. We can use the text transform. And this is just going to give us what's case of the text we want. So we're going to use an uppercase. So the whole of the text is displayed as an uppercase. Then we can include a border, just like we did for the other heading. We could say that we want this time the border to be displayed on the left. So all we have to do is use border left. But we don't want it to have an effect over the text. So that's why we're specifying border left. So it's just going to give us only the left side of the border. Now, the size of the border would be 5px, and I want it to be solid. And I'm also going to change the color. I'll save this, and we see the effects of the border. Now it gives us a red kind of text design. So this effect. Now there's something we can use to add space. It's called padding. We use it to control the space around certain, especially text elements. It's most effective for text elements. It's called padding. So we would see this in other lessons, but here I'll just put this here so we know that it's something we have on HTML. But I want to have just the padding for the left. So I will specify padding left, and whatever value we decide would be the space that we're going to have between the left side of the page and the element itself. So let's have something big enough for us to see the difference. So I'll use 10px, and you can see the space. So this is like the indents, but it's different because the indents specifically are for text properties, but we can apply this to other elements as well. So I'm just showing that we have these properties, and you can make use of them creatively however you want. So I think this is enough for the second. Let's use justify for this. So the text align we use here is justify. So this just spreads the text a little bit. All right, now we have another paragraph. We have the third paragraph, and we're going to give a class. And this will be the third paragraph. So I'll save this as third. And I'll copy this. And change the class name to third. So what can we add to this? We can change the fonts. Let's see. I want to use the Times New Roman. And then the color, let's use something different. FF00 FF. And then let's change the font style. I'm going to take this out. So this time our font style should be, let's use oblique. Since we have used italic, let's use oblique. I'm going to save this so see what we've done so far. So this is the third paragraph. We have changed the font style to oblique. We changed the color to purple, and the font family to New Times New Roman. As well, we maintained the size of the text. So let's quickly add something else to this third paragraph. Let's align the text to the center, and I'll refresh my page so we see it displayed at the center. Then there's also a property called hyphens, and we have different values for this. So this is like auto formatting, that it helps us to tell where the text ends. So let's say we have here this instruction and the text ends here because the page is according to the page size, but let's say this is the total size of the page and the text ends here. So the hyphen helps the reader to understand that the word continues on the next line. So it's just an automatic formatting for our text. All right, so let's just do one more last style. It's already time for this. Okay, so let's add something. Let's make this last heading bit different. Since the two of them have the same styles, let's just do something different. So we're going to give a class here, and we're going to call this, so we want to add a wavy font style effect. So I'm going to name this class wavy. So you could give your class any name as long as it means something to you, for you to understand what you're doing. So the name of the element is the h2 element, and the class is wavy. And now I want to do something to this. So I'm going to copy most of this just to make it faster. So the font size now, since it's a heading, let's use 36 px. I'm going to save this. Font family, just use something we've used before. Then the color, use something different. 00 FF. Okay, the text decoration. Let's use a text decoration. So this will give us the wavy effects. So we use text decoration for that. And our text decoration will be overline. Then we add the style using the text decoration style. So we can choose color, we can choose style. Let's use the color first. Let's use white. Then let's add a style to the text decoration. And the style we want to use here is wavy. And I'm going to align this to the right. And then save. So I think this is enough. And I refresh the page, and we have the text having all the properties that we've specified. The font size 36, the font family Korea, and the color, the shades of between purple and green. And we have an overline, and the overline is now styled to have a white color, and the style for the overline is wavy. And then we align the text to the right. So you see, every text property we have used has made this page that was looking simple now looking more appealing and more beautiful, like a web page does. All right, so if there's any question, I would like to take questions now before end the class.
Good evening, Mr.
Now, I want to mention. Okay, all right. I'm hearing you.
You didn't talk about the external style sheet.
Oh, yeah, I mentioned it that when we want to apply styles, we have the different ways of applying styles to the web page. So I showed this a file here in the CSS folder where I have my external style sheet. So if I want to use the external style sheet for this page, all I have to do is copy these styles that I have here and then include so I won't be needing this style element. This is for the embedded style. So I'm going to type the link tag, and then in the paths, the href paths, I'm going to specify where the external style sheets would be. So let me save this first in external style sheets. So I've pasted this here, and back to my index file, I want to locate the file where the styles have been written. So now I have it in the CSS folder, but the name isn't master.css. It's called style.css. But you can name it whatever name you want. So if I want to make sure that this remains the same, all I have to do is come here, rename this to master.css. And I'll save this. But always remember to include the extension CSS. That's the only way the style would be accessible. So I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, so there's something with my referencing. So this is what you get if your referencing is not properly referenced. So I'm going to save this again and retry. Now, the / before the CSS was preventing the file from accessing it. So this is basically how you locate a file, not just your CSS. So we're going to have images, we're going to have other files that we want to reference to. So this is one way we can make use of to reference a file. How it works is, first you want to check where your file you're referencing from. So I have the index.html in the root directory of my project folder. So this is my project folder, week 2, and I have other folders, other subfolders, but I have the index.html where we have our web page codes written, and it's right in the root directory of the project folder. So if let's say I have this file inside the pages folder. So I previously have a file here. So let's say I have the index.html on the pages folder. If I save this current structure and I refresh this page, I would not have the file accessed anymore because it can't find it where it was previously. So I have to set the path properly first before it can be seen. So now you can see here that in my URL, I have a path, but I'm not going to use this so you don't get too confused. So first, I want to locate the file. I could open it again on my Explorer. So I'll go to my Explorer. Probably won't display, but I'm just going to open it on the page. All right, so now if I open the new file where it's now located, it doesn't have the styles we've added. See, it displays basic as it was. Now we have to make sure that the styles is referenced properly. So how do we reference the styles from inside a folder? Unlike the way we had it, this current address is telling the browser to go to because the browser knows where the file is here, which was in the root directory, and all we had to do was tell it to go to the CSS folder and locate the master.css file where we have our styles. But now we have this file inside a subfolder in the pages folder. So first thing we want to do is we I'm going to take everything out here. So you want to come out from this folder, just assuming the file could work, right? Assuming the file could work, it would come out from this pages folder, and then look for the CSS file, which is inside this CSS folder before it sees the styles that it needs, right? So let's do that. We're going to come out using a double dot and a /. So this is how you come out from a folder when trying to reference a file, especially if you're in a folder. Now, if we're in a subfolder, we always use this to come out from any folder before we locate any file. So if, let's say, this pages folder even has another folder inside where we have this index.html, we are still going to come out with it first using a double dot and / like this. So this is if we had another folder inside the pages folder, but now we just have only the pages folder and we want to come out from the pages folder. So this will take us out from the pages folder. Now we are in this root directory outside the pages folder. And where do we want to go to? We want to go to the CSS folder. Now we're going to specify that we are going to the CSS folder by typing the name CSS. And since it's a folder, it's for you to go enter it, we use the / as well. Sorry. So this means that we are now inside the CSS folder. And what do we have, or what do we want to access in the CSS folder? We want to access the master.css file. So it's just telling the browser that we want to access the master.css file. So the extension name is .css. So we'll just name it like this. Now, if I save this and refresh my page, we have all the styles that are in the external style sheet. So there's something also we should take note of. If you have a base URL in your head area, it's going to prevent you from using a link tag or anything that will link your page to any other file, because the base URL will be the primary link tag. So what the browser will see first, because the browser reads your codes according to lines. So the first thing it knows about an external link is the first line that you have written, or the line it says the URL, and then he's going to assume that that's the link for this page, because that's what the base URL for. So it's going to look for that link instead of your link tag. So you do not need that. There are other ways we can link our pages to other external websites using the anchor tag. So we're going to look at that next. But for this week, we just understand that if you need to use the link tag for external style sheet, you will not need to use the base tag, the meta tag we learned last week, the base URL tag. So does this answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So is there any other question?
Good evening, Mr. D.
Good evening.
Yeah. For me, everything is still sounding like Greek. Maybe I'll just take my time gradually and going through them.
Okay.
By
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, I understand.
Because if I start asking questions now, I believe you'll just be laughing. I told you, there are so many things that is just looking like Greek for me here now. I don't know why you're using colors. Why do you have to color code? Why? In fact, I don't even know. But I believe I will enjoy the whole thing at the end of the day when I start understanding them. Everything is sounding so Greekish. Greek.
So there's this joy that comes to designing something from nothing, and that's what one of the drive you're going to have mostly in programming. If you want to be a developer, you will have to design things that doesn't make sense at first, and then you have to make it make sense. Sometimes it's just a concept, but you just because you can develop it, that's the skill we're trying to get here. So you can make it make sense. But I know now from your first experience, it's definitely, I know the feeling. Yeah, but like my first code wasn't this complex. My first code was hello world, right? And that's made a lot of sense to me because it was simple and it was basic. But that just helps you to, it's like an initiation to me why everybody uses hello world for their first programming exercise. It just helps you to write something very simple and something real. So if we had output something simple here, that would be easy to understand. But now we have a lot of content, so it looks a lot to comprehend immediately. But I assure you, once you go back to the class lesson, you rewatch the videos, and then this video is recorded. This lesson is recorded, and it's going to be uploaded on the school YouTube page. So once it's posted there, you'll get a notification from the WhatsApp group. So you can rewatch this video as much as you want. Every time you watch it, you get more understanding. I assure you, it's really not so complex. But once you just take your time, look at it, and you leave it, give a 20 minutes break if possible. Come back to it again, look at it, and see why it's done. Now, these designs are my own choice. From my experience, I've seen websites. I've seen how websites are designed, so I could at least come up with something. But for you, you could start looking at websites, see now what we've done so far, and compare it to what you know. So you see it starts making sense that, oh, this is how they have a heading on this web page. Oh, this is how they have the colors. This is how they have lines. This is how they have the text displaying like this on the web page. So this is just simple as it is. There's nothing really impossible for you to learn here. All you just have to do is just give it some time. You get it eventually. And remember, you can always book a one-on-one with me from the WhatsApp group. So whenever you have any challenges, just let me know. And
all right. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. So because of the